Imagine putting a cow, a dog, a pig, a deer, a chicken, and a horse in front of a group of people. Then ask one simple question. Which of these animals would you eat? The answers would probably be very different. Some people would immediately choose chicken or beef. Others might eat pork or goat. Some might happily eat deer, but suggest eating a dog. And many people would probably react completely differently. And here's the strange part. From a biological point of view, all of these animals are animals. So why do humans draw such a strong line between them? Why is one animal called food, another called a pet, another called wildlife, and another considered completely unacceptable to eat? The answer isn't just about taste. It's a combination of culture, history, geography, religion, economics, farming, and the way humans emotionally connect with animals. Today, we're going to explore why humans eat some animals, but not others. 1. It starts with what is available. Let's go back thousands of years. Imagine living in a small human settlement long before modern supermarkets, refrigerators, or international food transportation. You can't simply choose whatever meat you want. You have to work with what exists around you. If an animal is easy to find, easy to raise, and provides a useful amount of food, humans have a reason to keep it. This is one reason animals such as cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, and chickens became important in different agricultural societies. Take chickens. They're relatively small, reproduce quickly, and can provide both eggs and meat. Goats are also useful because they can survive in environments where some other livestock struggle. Cattle can provide meat and milk, and historically, they have also been useful for farming and transportation. So humans didn't randomly choose today's common food animals. Over generations, people developed relationships with animals that were useful and practical to keep. It wasn't simply, this animal tastes good. It was also, this animal fits our way of living. 3. Now here's where things get really interesting. Move to another part of the world, and the list of animals people eat can change dramatically. Why? Because the environment changes. Different climates support different animals. Different landscapes provide different plants and resources. And different societies develop different traditions. For example, reindeer have historically been important to communities living in northern regions. In other places, deer became an important source of wild game. In coastal communities, seafood became extremely important because fish and other marine animals were readily available. So geography can influence food in a very simple way. People often eat what their environment makes accessible. Over time, that practical choice can become a tradition. And once something becomes traditional, people may continue eating it even after modern transportation gives them thousands of other options. 4. Culture changes what feels normal. This might be the most important part. Think about chicken. To most people, eating chicken is completely ordinary. You see it in restaurants, you see it in supermarkets, you see it in advertisements. Children grow up knowing chicken is food. Now imagine someone who grew up in a culture where a particular animal is usually considered a companion. They might look at that animal completely differently. This is called a cultural food boundary. Humans don't just learn what food tastes good. We learn what food is considered acceptable. And we usually learn that from the people around us. Our parents teach us, our communities teach us, our traditions teach us, our religions can influence us, and our society constantly reinforces those ideas. So when someone says, I could never eat that, they may not be talking about the biological possibility of eating it. They're talking about what that animal means to them. 5. Pets and food are not the same thing. In every culture, dogs are one of the clearest examples. In many countries today, dogs are primarily viewed as companions. People give them names, they live inside homes, families become emotionally attached to them. So the idea of eating a dog can feel shocking or disturbing to many people in those societies. But attitudes toward dogs have not been identical everywhere throughout history. The same basic animal can have very different cultural roles depending on the society. This tells us something important. The category food isn't always determined by biology. It's also determined by the relationship humans build with an animal. Once an animal becomes a companion, our emotional reaction toward it can become very different from our reaction toward livestock. 6. Why don't we usually eat predators? Now let's look at lions, tigers, wolves, and other predators. Humans certainly can encounter these animals, but they are not normal livestock. Why? There are several reasons. First, predators generally require food themselves. A carnivorous animal needs other animals to survive. That makes raising them as livestock inefficient. Instead of feeding a predator resources that could potentially feed humans directly, it usually makes more sense to raise animals such as cattle, sheep, goats, or chickens. Second, predators can be dangerous. Imagine trying to raise a lion on a farm. That's obviously very different from raising chickens. And third, many wild predators are protected species, making hunting or trading them illegal in many places. So, predators usually don't fit the traditional agricultural food system. 7. Religion can create food rules. Another major influence is religion. For billions of people, food isn't only a personal choice, it can also be connected to religious rules and traditions. Different religions and religious communities have different dietary principles. These can influence which animals are considered acceptable to eat, how food should be prepared, and which foods should be avoided. These traditions can continue for generations, and because food is part of everyday life, religious dietary rules can become a powerful part of cultural identity. This is why two communities living in the same environment can have access to the same animals, but still have completely different food choices. 8. Economics matters too. There's another factor we often forget: money. Some animals are simply more economical to raise than others. Consider an animal that grows quickly, reproduces efficiently, requires relatively little space, and provides useful products. That animal has an economic advantage. Now compare it with a large animal that takes many years to mature and requires huge amounts of food and space. The second animal may be much less practical for large-scale food production. This is one reason modern agriculture has become highly specialized. Humans aren't just asking, can we eat this animal? They're asking, can we raise millions of them efficiently? That question has shaped the modern food system. 9. Here's the fascinating part. There isn't one universal human menu. An animal can be considered completely normal food in one culture and deeply unacceptable in another. Horse meat is an example. Some societies have traditions of eating horse meat. In other societies, horses are primarily associated with companionship, sport, work, or history, so eating them can feel unacceptable. The animal itself hasn't changed. The meaning humans give it has changed. And that's the bigger lesson. Food is partly biological, but it's also cultural. 10. Why do our attitudes change? Our ideas about food aren't frozen forever. They can change. As societies become more urbanized, people may become less connected to farming. As people travel and interact with other cultures, they discover new foods. Media can change perceptions. Environmental concerns can influence diets. Animal welfare discussions can change attitudes. And new technologies can create entirely new forms of food. So the list of animals humans consider normal food isn't necessarily permanent. What seems completely normal today could look strange to people in the future, and something considered unusual today could become more common tomorrow. The big question. So, why do we eat some animals, but not others? It's not because humans simply looked at every animal and decided, this one tastes good, that one doesn't. The reality is much more complicated. We eat animals that became accessible through our environment. We eat animals that fit our farming systems. We follow traditions passed down through generations. Our religions can influence our choices. Our economies determine what's practical. And our emotional relationships with animals can completely change how we see them. That's why a cow can be viewed as food in one context, a working animal in another, and a culturally significant animal somewhere else. The animal is the same, but the human relationship with it is different. So the next time you sit down for a meal and see chicken, beef, fish, or another familiar food on your plate, think about something. Who decided that this animal was food? The answer may go back hundreds or even thousands of years. It may involve geography. It may involve survival. It may involve religion. It may involve economics. And it may simply involve what your parents taught you was normal. Because in the end, food isn't just something we eat. Food tells the story of who we are, where we come from, and how humans have learned to live with the world around them. And perhaps the most interesting question isn't, why do we eat this animal? It's, why don't we eat the others? This is the Lost Atlas, and there's always more to discover.